Hey y'all! Beating Pokemon Red using only one Onix was hysterical, and this week is gonna be fun too. I'm gonna try to beat Pokemon Crystal using only one Igglybuff and one Cleffa. As usual, the rules are I can only use these two Pokemon in battle, and I can't use any trainer items in battle. By the way, if you like this kind of content and want to see more, be sure to subscribe and check out more of these videos on my channel. Igglybuff and Cleffa are two of the new baby Pokemon introduced in Johto in Gold, Silver, and Crystal. It's kind of weird to call it new when it's over 20 years old, but that's besides the point. They're the pre-evolved forms of Jigglypuff and Clefairy, and what that really means is that these two Pokemon are even weaker than Jigglypuff and Clefairy. Hooray! Those challenges were hard enough on their own in Pokemon Red, and when you consider both the absence of badge boosting shenanigans in this game, and the fact that Crystal is just a harder game in general, well, I figured I should try using both of them at once instead of individually. And believe me, we're gonna need all the help we can get with this one. As for Cleffa in particular, it's got a really limited level up move pool, but a fantastic TM move pool. The attack, defense, and speed are, well, pretty bad, but the HP, special attack, and special defense are usable. Kind of a super awkward distribution of stats for a Pokemon whose same type attack bonus for normal moves are only physical. What are you gonna do? As for Igglybuff, it's similar in many ways, but also has some key differences. The level up moveset is 80% the same, and the TM moves are incredibly similar, if not identical. But the stats are where they differ. Igglybuff has 5 base power higher attack, but 5 base power lower special attack than Cleffa. And they have the same speed, but the defensive stats are where things get kind of weird. Igglybuff has a much higher HP stat, but a much lower defense and special defense. And in a way, one could argue that Igglybuff and Cleffa have effectively similar bulk when all is said and done. But I don't have the budget to pay the math department this month, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Alright, let's do this. Off at Professor Elm's lab, I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Totodile with Cleffa so that a rival will pick the Grass-type Chikorita. Igglybuff and Cleffa are both normal types, so there's no distinct advantage in either of our favors, but Bayleaf and Meganium are very bulky, have Reflect to reduce the damage of our normal type attacks, plus Razor Leaf has a high critical hit ratio. I won't be receiving Igglybuff until after the second gym, so for now, we're just rocking out with Cleffa. And Cleffa is a cute little dude bro whose evolution line worships all things lunar, so I nickname ours Moongoon. Cleffa starts off with Pound, Charm, and Encore. Not a terrible starting moveset, I guess. We're too slow to effectively use Encore moving forward, but against the first rival battle with Bubs, I try it out anyways. It locks Chikorita for several turns into only using Growl, when really I was trying to lock it into Tackle so that I could lower its attack with Charm first. Well, we're both not doing much damage anymore, but with an extra level and a berry hold item to restore 10 HP, this battle was really straightforward, and our Moongoon wasn't even phased. After beating the rival Bubs, I head to the Violet City Gym to take on the leader Faulkner and his Flying Freaks. And along the way, Cleffa learned the move Sing, which is arguably its best move. I say arguably, because it does put the opponent to sleep, and sleep is absolutely busted in this game, but it's only 60% accurate, so it misses all the time. It's a double-edged sword, where landing a Sing can make a battle super easy, but repeatedly missing Sing leaves Cleffa open to a lot of unwanted damage. And you can see here, though, that without the multiple turns that Pidgey and Pidgeotto spent catching Z's, we would not have had enough health left over to win this battle even with a berry. So, if we continue to land Sings, then the rest of the challenge is sure to be music to my ears. Otherwise, it's going to be more of a trouble Cleffa. Now in Azalea Town, I'm ready to take on Bugsy the Bug-type gym leader for the Hive Badge, and along the way, Cleffa learned Sweet Kiss, which is a move that confuses the opponent, but it's only 75% accurate, so not much better than Sing, honestly. Even with Cleffa's quote-unquote busted moveset, this battle was super frustrating. Metapod isn't much of an issue, but I need a Poison Cure Berry to get past the Kakuna without remaining poisoned, and as always, it's the Scyther that's really the big issue. It barely takes any damage from our pitiful pounds, Plus, even after we lower its attack stat with Charm, its damage output is still tremendous. After a bunch of resets, I find a winning strategy. I make sure to confuse the Scyther before putting it to sleep. Now, why do I confuse the Scyther if I'm just gonna put it to sleep? Hold up. Then, all we need is like 5 consecutive turns of sleep so that we never get hit. Yeah, that's the strategy. But Scyther's quick attack does almost half of our health, and we get super close, but Scyther wakes up right at the finish line and then hits itself in confusion, giving us the win. See? I have my reasons, so just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not there. Kinda like the dark side of the moon. That's not even a pun. That's just cool. Now that we've snubbed Bugsy's grubs, it's time to get the dub against Bubs. And right away, I realize that I'm going to have to change up our strategy here, since currently, the only damage we can deal to Ghastly with our moveset is to confuse it and then hope it smacks itself in its own non-corporeal face. I gave it a try, but yeah, it's just not gonna work. So I end up resetting the battle, and I figure we gotta try something different. I can definitely come up with a better strategy. I just need a little time to plan it. I went ahead and replaced Charm with the TM for Mudslap. And it's not that strong, but it is super effective against Ghastly, plus it lowers its accuracy. And for once, our awful speed actually came in handy. Ghastly outspeeds and puts us to sleep with Hypnosis, and while that sucks, it means we never got the chance to use a move, and therefore, Ghastly's Spite can't reduce our BP, and when we wake up, we put it to sleep with Sing. A few mud slaps later, and we're past the gas, and we can finally use Pound again. Zubat and Cleffa trade confusions before it goes down to a pair of pounds, and then the Bayleaf comes out and things get saucy. It crits us with Razor Leaf before we confuse it and put it to sleep. Then I lower its accuracy with Mud Slap as I wait for Reflect to fade so that our pounds will start doing normal damage again. And then I misclick Sweet Kiss twice while trying to put the Bayleaf to sleep with Sing before I decide, YOLO, and just start pounding the plant. It all turned out fine in the end, so I guess from now on, I won't really need to worry about damage from Razor Leaves piling up. I'll just clear them with my Moonraker. So now that we've made it to Goldenrod City, we can finally get an Igglybuff. At the daycare, the old man will give you the odd egg that they found, which hatches randomly into one of the newly introduced baby Pokemon. It also has a 14% chance to be shiny, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so we have a 1 in 7 chance for this egg to be an Igglybuff, and about a 1 in 7 chance that Igglybuff is shiny, so let's hatch it and see what we get. Oh, it's another Cleffa. What are the chances? 1 in 7. Don't worry though, there is another way to get Igglybuff right away. In the grass right near the daycare, I catch both a Jigglypuff and a Ditto. Then I can put them in the daycare together, wait for the old man to find an egg, not ask any questions about how that works, and then hatch that egg into an Igglybuff. And some of you might have been wondering why I chose to start with Cleffa over Igglybuff, and this is the reason why. I knew that I could get a Jigglypuff in this grass, whereas I wouldn't be able to find a Clefairy until much later, and I would have been forced to reset receiving the odd egg until I hatched a Cleffa. And this was already time-consuming enough as it were. Igglypuff, Jigglypuff, and Wigglytuff are known as the Balloon Pokemon, so I nickname ours Balloon Goon. Next up is the Goldenrod City Gym in the battle with Whitney's Miltank, but first, there's a Clefairy! Well, would you look at that? And off-screen, I got Igglybuff up to Cleffa's level, so now they're both on par. And you might be thinking, oh wow, this challenge is going to be easy since you can use 2 Pokemon. But you'll see moving forward that as soon as the opposing trainers get halfway decent Pokemon, we're not faring much better than we would normally. These baby Pokemon truly, and I cannot stress this enough, are terrible. You can see here that even with maximized defense and return, which is the strongest normal type move in the game, and putting the Miltank to sleep, Igglybuff still takes a ton of damage. But somehow, it did manage to win the battle without Cleffa ever having to engage the Miltank. We skipped that part completely, so in a way, you could say, the cow jumped over the Moon Goon. Alright, now that we've beaten the cattle, it's time to skedaddle. And the next battle with Bubs inside the Burnt Tower in Ecruteak City is normally a huge problem because of the Haunter with Curse. But we can actually switch out here to remove the effects of Curse if we want. I end up not doing that though. I want to take down Haunter with Mud Slap as it curses, but it manages to survive our Mud Slap even after cutting its HP in half. Then, we don't manage to take out the Magnemite with Mud Slap before Cleffa faints. So, it's all up to Igglybuff to carry on the battle with Return. Easier said than done, especially when you realize that our Igglybuff has a lower attack stat because it's a female. And no, that's not a backhanded commentary either. That's just how Game Freak programmed this game. Our attack stat gets even worse when Bayleaf lowers it with Growl, but one kiss is all it takes, as Return plus Confusion damage is able to seal the deal. And thank goodness. I'm glad our Balloon Goon was able to finish this battle after our Moon Goon bit the dust. Next up is the Spectral Showdown with the Ecruteak City Gym Leader Morty and his gang of ghoulish ghosts. This battle, I'm not a fan. We only have Mud Slap to hit Morty's ghost directly, so we have to reset a lot. Plus, it doesn't help that his ghost keeps spamming Curse, and while that does cut their HP in half, it forces me to switch out my Pokemon to prevent taking Curse damage each turn. And I made sure before the battle to give Cleffa the Quick Claw to hold, which has a 10% chance each turn to let Cleffa move first, regardless of normal speed interactions. And it's pretty important, since it lets Cleffa outspeed Gengar twice to lower its accuracy with Mud Slap. We might have won this time, but it took a lot of tries. And even though we've won, we've really got to get some better moves soon for our platoon of goons. Seriously, I do not want to have to keep winning battles like this. Just look at Igglybuff, who has to knock the Haunter out with Confusion. And no, I don't mean the Psychic type move that would be super effective. I mean by having Haunter hit itself in the face. Still, I guess I can't be too upset. When it came down to it, our Bobbing Balloon beat Morty's Floating Phantasm in a Levitation Confrontation, proving that Igglybuff is the one and only true Float Goat. Now with the ability to surf outside a battle, I set sail from Olivine City and head to the Cianwood City Gym to take on the Fighting-type Gym Leader Chuck. But before I can get to him, I have to get past two back-to-back battles at the beginning of the gym. The first one involves a Hitmonlee that 1-KOs both of our goons with High Jump Kick and Double Kick. And I have to reset this one so many times. And even with the Quick Claw allowing us to move first every once in a while, Sing keeps missing, and Sleep is the only way we're gonna win this one. Eventually we get there, and win that battle, and then thankfully the follow-up battle involves a Hitmonchan, which knows mostly elemental punches. Those aren't nearly as bad, since they're not same type attack boosted, they're not super effective, and their damage is calculated off of Hitmonchan's terrible special attack stat. Even though we're past that, I can't say I'm excited for the battle with Chuck. Things are going downhill fast, and this challenge is really starting to fall off a Cleffa. Oh hey, speaking of getting chucked up, here is the bloated battler himself. And this battle is even worse than the one before. Primeape's Karate Chop is sometimes not a 1-KO, but even when we can put it to sleep, it takes a while to knock it out even with Return. Igglybuff gets knocked out swiftly by the Poliwrath, so it's all up to Cleffa, and we got 1-KO'd by Dynamic Punch. Oh god. If only Cleffa was bulky enough to actually survive one of those. Then again, we'd have to be a little meteor. Okay, but what would happen if we somehow managed to get Igglybuff past the Primeape, not only with full health, but also with a handful of defense boosts? Would that in turn help us to feint the frog, or will we still invoke its Poliwrath? One way to find out. Okay, we get Confusion and Sleep, but Chuck has a full heal. Oh yeah, and he's got Surf, which is a special move, making our defense boost completely pointless. And Igglybuff goes down. Okay, all we need is for Poliwrath to miss 2 dynamic punches. Come on, you little freak. Come on, you little freak. Yes, 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 yes! Ha-ha! Get mooned, you fool! Catch these cheeks! Oh, man. Oh, man. There is no crater feeling. After dispatching the Lake of Rage Team Rocket hideout portion of the game, I then headed to take on Price, the Ice-type gym leader in Mahogany Town. This battle is normally super easy, but you severely underestimate just how terrible these two puffballs really are. Steel and Dugong's Aurora Beams normally aren't a huge issue, but they actually do decent damage here. Igglybuff does manage to make it past the Seal, but goes down at the Dugong, so it's time for Cleffa to finish things off. Price's Piloswine is actually really tough, and it does huge damage with Blizzard. So, we lose a lot. But don't worry though, Moongoon will win eventually. It's just a matter of tide. After many resets and some decent sing luck, I managed to make it to the Piloswine with Igglybuff still in play. Return doesn't finish the job, but it does enough to pave the way for Cleffa to come in and finish things up. Cleffa takes a lot of damage from both Fury Attack and Blizzard, but he hangs on to win what was, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, the hardest Price battle we've ever had. Good lord, I feel crazy even saying that. It's absolute lunacy. Next up is the Steel-type Gym Leader Jasmine. This battle is always a real pain in the ain, so let's see how it goes this time with not one, but two mediocre Pokemon. Ooh. At level 40 and with the Soft Sand hold item to boost the power of Mud Slap, Cleffa is able to consistently 2-hit KO the two Magnemites, which are naturally slower than Cleffa. And this is great, because it means we can consistently get to the Steelix before losing Cleffa, at which point I don't really mind it getting knocked out. Well, why? Because at that point I want Igglybuff to join the fray anyways. I taught Igglybuff the TM for Icy Wind that we got for beating Price. Since Igglybuff's attack stat is nerfed by being female, I figure it'll be better suited as a special attacker. And Icy Wind is super effective against the Steelix. It actually does surprisingly good damage. Or that's what I would have said, had I not forgotten to teach Icy Wind before the battle. Yeah, that happened. Okay, so let's just see if we can beat the stupid Steel Snake anyways. After almost running out of return beepy, I regret my own stubbornness. I should have definitely reset by now, but then again, I am a flawed man. So Jasmine uses a super potion. Okay, that's great. So let's just keep doing this, and definitely shouldn't have reset by now. Oh great, I ran out of beepy just before knocking Steelix out. Okay, well let's just hope it hurts itself in confusion. Oh, huzzah! I can't believe we actually won. Oh my lord, that was ridiculous. With 7 gym badges in hand, we now have to take on the rival Bubs in the basement underground during the Team Rocket Radio Tower anime arc. And this battle is annoying thanks to Bubs' first 3 Pokemon. We need to equip a Bitter Berry to deal with Golbat's Confuse Ray, and Mud Slap is our best move for the Magnemite. Not just for damage, but for the accuracy drop, which helps to avoid Thunder Wave. I'd really love to teach Shadow Ball instead of Mud Slap, which would deal with ghosts like Haunter, but Steel types resist normal, so I'd really be handicapping an already handicapped team. And this is the first challenge I've done where I'm actually happy to see Haunter using Curse, since Mud Slap is not even a 4-hit KO, so we'll count Haunter cutting its own HP as a benefit for once. Cleffa is able to take down the Sneasel as well before getting bested by the Meganium, but we've saved the best for last? Well, alright. Igglybuff finally has Icy Wind, and with the Never Melt Ice equipped, it's actually doing halfway decent damage. Oh wait, just kidding, there I go again saying things that I should have done. No, instead I keep making things harder on myself by having to rely on woefully inaccurate Sweet Kiss and Sing. I reset this battle so many times to losing repeatedly, and for what? I should have just taught Igglybuff Icy Wind. Why do I keep forgetting I have the TM for Icy Wind? Why am I like this? Guess I've just been focusing too much on Moongoon, because that's like the 13th time that's happened. I guess I just have to apologize. Having slid through Ice Path and making it to Blackthorn City, it's now time for the final Johto Gym Leader, Claire, the Dragon-type trainer. And finally, I totally actually taught Icy Wind for real this time. Not a joke. With the Never Melt Ice equipped and at level 50, a damage rounding level to boot, Icy Wind is barely a 2-hit KO on Claire's Dragonairs. And while Igglybuff is outsped by each of them, and has to take an attack first, Icy Wind lowers their speed, meaning we actually then outspeed on the next turn. Igglybuff manages to take down the trio of pearl necklace wearing dragon noodles before the Kingdra makes its appearance to pop our balloon. Cleffa's ready to finish the job though, but not before having its accuracy lowered by smokescreen. Oh great, thank goodness accuracy hasn't been an issue this entire run. By the grace of Arceus, however, Cleffa tanks a Hyper Beam and then manages to land 2 consecutive returns to knock out the Kingdra and win the battle. And it turns out, as long as we have faith in our Moongoon, there's no need for Atmosphere. Before we reach the Elite Four, we have to take on the Rabblebubs in Victory Road. I tried this battle several times with multiple configurations before settling on the idea that leading with Igglybuff was best. Not because it's necessarily better than Cleffa, in fact, it's kind of more like I'm putting the more disposable Pokemon first. Yeah, for a lot of this run, Igglybuff's been more or less a glorified meat shield. It does manage to make it to the Magneton though before getting knocked out, where Cleffa comes in and gets to slap around some mud. I can't wait to get past this last Bubs battle so I can finally teach Cleffa Shadow Ball, since this Magneton is basically the only reason that I still have Mudslap. Unfortunately, and unlike the last battle with Bubs, I am less thrilled here to be taking a curse from Haunter, since I'm already on the last of my 2 Pokemon. Kadabra goes down in a single return, but Meganium's Reflect essentially seals our loss. Having the damage of return means we can't win before Curse does its worst, and it's not long before things are all rover for Moongoon. Okay, this time let's try using Cleffa as the meat shield. Cleffa gets confused, so I switch it out into Igglybuff to get rid of confusion while Golbat sleeps. And I gotta say that after doing over 100 solo Pokemon challenge runs, it feels incredibly strange to be allowed to switch out during battle. I use an Icy Wind before switching back into Cleffa, since I really want to preserve Igglybuff to square off with the Meganium. And this time, Cleffa gets paralyzed by the Magneton, and between Confusion, Paralysis, and Curse, it just barely fails to feint the Haunter. Igglybuff finishes it off, and one-hit KOs the Kadabra, so now it's time for the Meganium once again. And this is the reason why I wanted Igglybuff for this. Icy Wind's not only super effective, but as a special move, it bypasses the damage reduction from Reflect, which only works against physical moves, letting us finally beat this stupid flower dinosaur. Dinoflora? Anyways, I should have just done things this way ages ago and led with Moongoon, but then again, I am a bit of a procrastinaut. We've finally made it to the Pokemon League, so here are the stats and moves. Me knowing full well that we'll need to be stronger than level 51 to beat the Elite Four, I decide to preemptively level up the Goon Squad to 58. I finally taught Shadow Ball to Cleffa and equipped the Spell Tag to boost its power by 10% for the battle with Will. You can also see that our stats are pretty atrocious, so I also whaled out all of our remaining money on vitamins to boost our stats. And, fat good it did me. They've barely changed at all. Oh, come on, man. Give us me a break. Igglybuff is arguably even worse than Cleffa, but Icy Wind has started to develop into the secret sauce of this challenge run. It hits a lot of things for super effective damage, and reducing the opponent's speed for these 2 incredibly slow Pokemon has been pretty useful as well. Still, I've spent a ton of time and all of our money barely beefing up these 2 Pokemon, and seriously, I can't believe just how expensive all those vitamins were. We're basically broke. But I guess for that, you'll have to blame inflation. Alright, let's just get this over with. Up first is the Psychic-type Elite Four member Will. His team is full of Pokemon which are all weak to Ghost-type moves. I'm so stoked to finally get the chance to use Shadow Ball with Cleffa. It's not only super effective against Psychic types, but also the Ghost types that are immune to return. Plus, Ghost moves are physical in this game, so it actually does decent damage. Sadly though, it turns out that even with the Spell Tag, and vitamins, and a damage rounding level, Cleffa still doesn't guarantee a 1-hit KO on Will Xatu. This gives more opportunities to get confused and slap ourselves around, making it hard to get past the first bird without already being low on health. And because of our low speed, there's nothing to stop the Jinx from finishing off Cleffa, and you would be nutty to think that Igglybuff could ever finish the rest of this battle on its own. So, might as well reset now. After all, a chain is only as strong as its weakest Zeppelink. With just a few extra levels, this becomes much more consistent. The Xatu is now a guaranteed 1-hit KO, Jinx was already a 1 KO, and Cleffa tanks a Psychic from Exeggutor on a single hit point to take it down. Hey, that's half the team right there. Slowbro takes over half before stuffing the Clef, and Igglybuff picks up where Cleffa left off to take down the Slowbro. And while Icy Wind isn't enough to knock out the last Xatu, the speed drop allows Igglybuff to move first and take it out anyways. Seriously, I love this move. And like an overinflated balloon, I am bursting with excitement. Next up is Koga, the Poison and Bug type Elite Four member. There's not a ton to say about this one. It's kind of just one thing to say about this one, so I'll jump right into it. Ariados and Venomoth are only a problem if their evasion boosts get out of control, but the real stick in the mud is the Fortress. It resists all of both Cleffa and Igglybuff's moves, plus I just know this thing wants to explode all over my goons. Even putting it to sleep isn't super helpful, since it barely takes any damage and can just wake up and knock us out in a few turns anyways. I think this is also the first time we've taken Spike's damage in a challenge run before. Nifty. Icy Wind is Igglybuff's best bet for damage against this Ferric Freak, but right as we're about to knock it out, what does it do? It clicks Explosion! Yay! Love that! Then again, I guess an explosion is just waiting to happen when your balloon is full of hot air. After that, each time I get to the Fortress, I switch Cleffa into Igglybuff to hit it with the marginally stronger Icy Wind. We fare just fine as long as Fortress stays asleep, which is easier said than done. Igglybuff misses multiple Sweet Kisses on the Muck, who manages to double its defense with Acid Armor, and then snuff the buff with Sludge Bomb. Cleffa finishes it off while taking a huge chunk of damage from Sludge Bomb, and then has just enough health left to take 2 wing attacks from the Crobat before taking it down with Return. Moongoon couldn't be stopped by a couple of wings. After all, eclipse them! Next up is the Fighting type Elite Four member Bruno. Considering the difficult time we had in Chuck's fighting gym, I expected this battle to be a real bruiser, but instead, it ended up being a bit of a snoozer. Heh, loser. If I had to guess why, I would venture it's mainly due to one simple axiom. Bruno's an idiot. His lead Hitmontop doesn't even have a fighting type damaging move, plus his Hitmonlee forgoes high jump kick for the much weaker double kick. Hitmonchan finishes off Cleffa with a Mach Punch, but had it not been a critical hit, I actually think we could have taken it and knocked Hitmonchan out. 2 Mach Punches do a bevy of damage to Igglybuff, so once the Machamp comes out, it's time to play dirty. Sing puts the Machamp to sleep, who snoozes for several turns as we take it down with multiple returns. Good thing Bruno has max potions and not full restores, which would have awakened Machamp in addition to healing its health. And once that thing goes down, it's solely his Onix left. It outspeeds and hits an Earthquake, but everyone who saw last week's video already knows how bad Onix's attack stat is, so we survive and knock it out in a single hit with Icy Wind. Bruno tried to feed us a Knuckle Sandwich, but we ended up force-feeding him a Balloony Sandwich. Up next is the Dark-type Elite Four member Karen. Normally she's incredibly frustrating, so I was fully prepared going into this battle to get all hot and bothered and start unscrupulously spamming Sweet Kiss and Sing, thinking she'd be equally as annoying. A preemptive strike, if you will, but to my gleeful surprise, Cleffa manages to get past her Umbreon without taking a Sand Attack or a Confuse Ray. Heck, we didn't even take a Mean Look, which would have actually mattered for once. Cleffa even manages to take down the Vileplume without being paralyzed by Stun Spore, so naturally my hyper-vigilant brain is starting to wonder when and how things must be about to go catastrophically wrong. Strangely though, Shadow Ball takes out a half-health Gengar, and I press my luck by not even switching Cleffa to get rid of the curse. Feint Attack critical hits Cleffa before Murkrow goes down. Okay, it must be now? It's gonna happen now? No. Cleffa does most of Houndoom's health with Return after tanking a Flamethrower, or as I like to call it, Bark at the Moon. And hey, I can't even be mad that Curse knocked us out now. Igglybuff is more than capable of finishing up this battle, and I cannot believe we managed to beat Karen on the first try with our Goon Platoon. For once, I'm not even annoyed with Karen. In fact, now that my mind isn't clouded with unrestricted anger, I dare say she's kinda cute. I'd wax for her phone number, but I'm married, so that would be way out of line. Now it's time for the champion battle with the last member, Lance the Dragon Master. Heck, with the way things have been going so far in the Elite Four, I'm actually feeling super confident going into this one. Especially confident since Igglybuff has Icy Wind for super effective damage on the Dragons. My confidence immediately zippity-doo-dahs right out the window when I realize I forgot to heal my Pokemon between the battles, so Cleffa doesn't even make it past Lance's Gyarados. Okay, obviously we lose here since our Pokemon were both heavily damaged, especially Balloon Goon, so before the next battle, I make sure to Helium. I use the majority of our rare candies here to get our 2 pink puffs up to level 65. I'm sure I'll regret that decision later when I need to grind, but c'est la vie. This time around, Cleffa handily gets past the Gyarados and even manages to take down the Dragonite, albeit while taking a Thunder Wave paralysis for its efforts. Cleffa even manages to get rid of most of Aerodactyl's health before fainting, so it's all up to Igglybuff to finish the second half of Lance's team. Charizard does a lot with Flamethrower, so it has to take a nap, or else our goose will be cooked, and all we need now is to land an Icy Wind on Lance's last Dragonite. It tanks an Icy Wind, and would be able to outspeed and knock us out had Lance not gone for a full restore, giving us an extra turn to drop its speed by a second stage. So now, we move first, and Igglybuff smacks around the Dragonite to win the battle. And you know what they say, you gotta keep your blimp hand strong. And with Lance defeated, we have finally conquered the Pokemon League. But you know the challenge run isn't over yet. I'm always going to consider beating the final Trainer Red as the final boss of the run. Unless of course a Pokemon, or Pokemon, are just impossibly bad. I set sail upon the SS Aqua to head over to Kanto to take on their 8 gym leaders to acquire all 16 badges to earn the right to challenge Red atop Mount Silver. I got through most of the Kanto gym leaders without any trouble, so now it's time to take on the final Kanto gym leader, Blue. And if you've seen any of these challenges before, then you will know just how strong the move Curse is at this point in the game for a physical attacker like Cleffa. Oh, but don't worry, it's not completely unstoppable like usual. With the leftovers hold item, healing a little each turn, there's nothing to stop Cleffa from fully maximizing its attack and defense against the Pidgeot, which can't really do anything about it. However, it's the rest of Blue's team that constitutes more of a problem. You see, Curse does nothing to increase our special defense, so Alakazam hits hard with Psychic even when it doesn't critical hit. We go down here at the Rhydon, and this was not an isolated incident. I lost here kind of a lot, but I'm not sure what else to do really. Without Curse, Cleffa's attacks barely do any damage. In fact, they're weaker than a satellite Craze. I grab a few extra levels with each of our goons and start trying this whole thing once again. This time around, I start off the battle with our Igglybuff and just try to dispose of as many of Blue's lead Pokemon as possible. I feel as though my chances for success are better if I can get to the Rhydon without Cleffa having taken damage, so that's what I'm trying here. This time around, Igglybuff actually manages to make it to the Rhydon to give Cleffa a free switch in with full health. Then Cleffa puts Rhydon to sleep with Sing, and now we start boosting with Curse. A few errant earthquakes and repeated sandstorm chip damage weaken our Cleffa more than leftovers can recover as we miss multiple Sings, and I start to get nervous. However, we manage to get things back on track and finish with our boosts before finally finishing off the Rhydon. Gyarados wastes its chance to attack by setting up the rain, which only helps us by reducing the damage of his Arcanine's Flamethrower. Exeggutor and Arcanine both go down in a single hit each, and in the end, I could have won this battle a long time ago had I just started the battle with Igglybuff first. But I guess I was too afraid to commit. And let that be a lesson to all of you out there afraid of commitment. You'll only lose your balloon if there's no strings attached. With all 16 badges in hand, it's time to take on the final Trainer Red atop Mount Silver. And now, it's time for the worst of it. I make a major change in strategy here by replacing Igglybuff's Sweet Kiss with Dream Eater, which is a Psychic-type move that only works on sleeping targets, but heals half the damage it deals. It's really good at keeping Igglybuff healthy, but it's super aggravating not only when Sing constantly misses, but also when I have to play guessing games on when Red will use a full restore on his Pikachu. Igglybuff can get past the Pikachu, but most of the time, our lead balloon goes down faster than a lead balloon. Even with both of our Pokemon all the way up to level 85, I'm still struggling like crazy. I have, however, done this battle so many times that I'm able to predict exactly when Red will go for full restores on his Pikachu, so I can put it right back to sleep with Sing on the same turn. This, of course, only works when Sing decides to not miss, which is approximately, never. Haha, I'm getting so fed up with this garbage. I'm fine. Maybe I should try using Moongoon first, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I just need to relax. I could even light some crescented candles. Moon jokes, baby! After a while, I decide to just max out our levels and friggin' go for it. Because honestly, if these two idiots can't do this at level 100, then they don't deserve to win. Pikachu goes down in a single return, and then Espeon comes out, and I know this might seem crazy, but the optimal strategy here is to actually stall for time by attacking with Dream Eater. It doesn't do much damage because it's resisted, but it does heal up, plus stalls out turns of Reflect, which we'll want to do before the Snorlax comes out. That beefy behemoth does not need any more advantages, believe me. We have to put it to sleep before it can double its special defense with Amnesia, which is easier said than done. But even when we do manage to land a Sing, Snorlax can still attack while it's snoozing with Snore. Very rarely do we manage to get enough consecutive sleep turns to actually knock out the Snorlax, and even then, it's usually with little to no health left, and God willing we've not been paralyzed by Body Slam at that point. Venusaur is weak to Dream Eater, which is really nice, but it's also faster and can wake up, causing us to whiff a Dream Eater and waste a turn. And you can see that even with full health going into the Charizard, it's really hard for Igglybuff to hang around. And just imagine how much harder this would have been without Dream Eater healing us. Cleffa comes out and wastes a golden opportunity by missing a Sing as the Blastoise uses the weak Whirlpool. Blastoise goes for Rain Dance though, as we manage to put the Blastoise to sleep, but we don't get enough curses before it wakes up and starts attacking with Surf. Even landing a critical hit just to add insult to injury! And that is a load of dirigible crap! After another, probably, let's say an hour of resetting, I managed to make it back to the Blastoise. Igglybuff tries valiantly to win this stupid battle, but the stupid turtle keeps waking up and stupidly landing stupid critical friggin' stupid hits. Come on, Cleffa! You can do this! Okay, we managed to put the turtle to sleep as Rain Dance expires, and I decide 2 curses is enough before I start attacking with Return, which just finishes it off. Wait, so I could have just attacked twice in that last attempt an hour ago and won? Oh. Okay. And with that, the challenge is over. That fight with Red was absolutely ridiculous. But then again, I guess I shouldn't exactly be surprised. After all, when I originally considered each of these 2 Pokemon, I knew they would be 2 weeks separately to actually complete their own challenges, which is why I ended up combining them in the first place. Plus, it's not very often that we get an excuse to use more than 1 Pokemon for a challenge run, so it's nice to spice things up every once in a balloon moon. As always, I want to thank you for making it to the end of this video. These videos are a lot of fun, but also a lot of work, so I really do appreciate it. There's a playlist on my channel where you can find the rest of my Pokemon Challenge videos if you want to check those out as well. And if you like this kind of content and want to see more, be sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you'll know right away the next time one of these episodes is uploaded. And if you want early access to these videos to have your name listed in the credits, consider becoming a member or joining on Patreon. And if you have a Pokemon you'd like to see, leave a comment down below and I'll probably do it. Next week, I'll be trying to beat Pokemon Red using only 1 Spearow. Anyways, until next time,